Down in the Dugout, powered by Scout Scoops.
That covers everything baseball and so much more. Got a full show tonight, but first, we want to welcome at least my co-host, Chris Awisha and Scott from Writing Rosters. Welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome, Bob. Thank you.
And tonight we have
Going, Bob?
going well. Thank you. Tonight we also want to welcome back, if you've watched any of our previous shows or listened to any of our previous podcasts, Christian Weber. You'll know him as Bacon from his social media sites and his Twitch sites. Welcome aboard, Christian.
Happy to be here.
Thanks. Great. So we got a full show. We're going to be talking, obviously, Sony released a new stream tonight. IGN also did a stream that went in depth on the stadium creator for MLB The Show 21. We're excited to get into that. We're going to throw it to Christian for that here in a bit. We're also going to be talking a little bit Out of the Park Baseball. Out of the Park Baseball is going live tomorrow, but for those who pre-ordered it, it is in beta right now, and you can enjoy, and it's pretty close to the finished product, and it's awesome. We're going to talk about that and go in depth on that. But before we get to any of that, in the real world of baseball, obviously some big news hit, not only for fans on the south side end of the White Sox, but fans of baseball in general. We're talking about, of course, budding star and just one of the big names in the game that is poised to make a run and have a wonderful career, and that is the injury of Eloy Jimenez. Chris Ouija, he's our in-house White Sox fan. And although I hate the White Sox, I'll be honest, everybody knows that, this is painful. Because now, Chris, although that lineup is talented, you're looking to replace the production of, projections at least say this, 300 hitter, 25 to 35 home runs, 100 to 120 RBIs, and one of your young and upcoming stars on a team that, while has a lot of talent, may not have that much depth. How does this impact the White Sox moving forward, and how do they replace those numbers, Christopher?
They don't. You're exactly right. They don't have depth that can replace that type of number. They're not built like the Dodgers or the Padres, where they have the next man up. The guy that we've kind of seen, I think Tony La Russa said it, and he was playing today, was they're going to put Vaughn in left field. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a huge fan of that, mostly just because the guy's a first baseman. And I'm kind of a little worried about what kind of elements you're going to be putting him into with not being used to being out there. But there's no options. I mean, Billy Hamilton's is the only other outfielder right now that's healthy that could possibly play there. Adam Engel is out with an injury. And I mean, you're just not going to find 30 home runs, 100 RBIs type production. Honestly, I hope they look really hard and long outside the organization, and entertain possibly bringing somebody in, just even if they're going to put Vaughn in left field and then bring somebody in to play DH. I mean, look at Cespedes, look at Braun even. There's a lot of guys out there that could fit that aren't going to give you, the production and the potential that Eloy gave the team, but at least somebody that at least has been there or in that position before, that you're not relying on a bunch of wild cards. Like I love the potential of Vaughn, but he, let's be real, he's a rookie and he's only got 2 months of professional ball under his belt. And I think right now it's like Vaughn in left and Zach Collins at DH, and it's a big hurt for White Sox fans. And I mean, it's going to hurt them. I mean, they still should be a playoff team, but I definitely feel like not quite as excited as I did before. I mean, they're still a great team. There's a lot of guys I love on that team and up and down that lineup, but they lost their number 4 hitter. I mean, it's gonna leave a mark. That's assuming he even comes back. I mean, they said 5 to 6 months.
Right.
So it's, he has been a fast healer. Rick Hahn in the press conference said that in the past, he's always running into walls. I mean, it brings up a whole slew of questions and, discussions for what the White Sox have done and haven't done, right with him. But realistically, he doesn't really belong in the outfield. But I mean, if he can come back sooner, great. But I mean, I would just, at this point, I'm just going to write him off. That if he's there, it's a bonus. It'll be a trade deadline, actually even later than that, probably September. It just sucks.
It does, obviously, and for, like I said, for fans of baseball, not just the White Sox, it does suck. There's no other way to put it. Obviously, you've talked about the lack of depth and replaceability within the system. And I'm throwing this at you off the top of your head, but is there someone in your mind, Chris, that the White Sox could go out and grab, who's a free agent? And while we all know early season trades don't happen that often because teams don't know where they're at in the first month and a half. But is there someone that you think is available via trade that could help fill that void of Eloy being gone?
Yeah. Like I mentioned, Cespedes, I know that, they were interested in him a little bit. At least that's what the rumors were.
Right.
He didn't want to commit because they've been very stingy with what they've handed out. And there's a lot of guys that, they've went after that, quite frankly, just didn't want to play as a bench role or a spring training invite and took more secure jobs. So they've lost out on that. I think Cespedes is a realistic. They have his younger brother in the system now. Braun, I think, is a potential, but again, these guys weren't playing in spring training, so who knows how long it's going to take for them to get ready, if they even have anything left in the tank. As far as trades go, Joey Gallo was a real possibility for them early in the offseason when they got Lynn. I kind of heard that there was possibly some money issues there, and also involving Andrus, that the White Sox kind of shot down, which is why it was just Lynn. And I think Mitch Haniger is also an option too. I think he's 1 year away from free agency, if I'm not mistaken. And whether or not Seattle is necessarily going for it or not, or if he's in their long-term plans, but he's looked pretty good when he's healthy. So I wouldn't mind them trying to go after somebody like that too. And also Anthony Santander, I think, is a guy who, just for my own personal, he interests me a lot. I think he'd be a good fit in left field too.
What about Puig?
I don't like Puig personally.
Okay. Right.
And also there might be something there. Remember that Jose Abreu has played with Puig, and there were opportunities previously for them to add him. And Abreu he's one of the most cordial guys out there. But if you kind of read through the fine lines there might be something there that maybe Abreu has told them might not be the best idea to bring him into the clubhouse. I've never really seen the fascination with him other than that rookie year when he kind of just took the league by storm. He looks like a very average player to me. And there's something to be said when a guy is doesn't have a lot of teams going after him. I think that's, unfortunately, there might be some clubhouse things there that maybe we don't know about because we're fans on the outside.
It's telling for sure. Absolutely. So, well, here's the good news for White Sox fans. I think if you can maintain for the first month or two, there might be some teams, a little bit of flexibility open up for a trade to happen. But that's the key. You've got a competitive American League Central there, and why I think, in my mind, the White Sox were the favorite. You take someone like Eloy out of that lineup, and maybe it brings them back to the pack, which the separation wasn't that great to begin with, at least to me. So,
yeah, no, I would agree with that. And they were one of the teams that were hurt really bad by not having a minor league season. Yeah. Their farm system is very top heavy, and so a lot of those guys especially position wise, from the 10 to 15 range to the 20 range. They haven't really broken out. So there's something to be kind of missed when you don't have a minor league season, and your guys aren't really able to build value or potentially entice teams to, want to acquire you as a headliner. So, everybody's asking about Kopech or Vaughn or, Madrigal, and the Sox don't necessarily want to get rid of them. So they definitely need the minor league season for these guys to kind of build their value up. And then, like you said, they might be able to. I wouldn't be surprised if they do. It's just, how desperate are they going to be? Or, how much is his presence going to be missed? right off the bat. I hope it doesn't affect them too bad. I mean, they still got a lot of dynamic guys that they should be okay. I mean, they had a great lineup to begin with, even without them, but they really cannot afford to lose anybody else for a prolonged period of time, or they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
I think that Vaughn does have a big opportunity. I mean, it does open it up a little bit for him if he could start off hot. Like Chris said, though, I mean, him in left field could be a little scary. So I guess that's going to be the big thing of how he looks his final, few days in spring training. But I do think there is a potential if they can, get off to a good start. They're going to be in it all year. I mean, they're not going anywhere in that division. I think it's going to be, them and the Twins in a dogfight all year. But I do think that there's going to be the potential for a lot of guys available. You look at, Atlanta, you might have somebody like Ender Inciarte available at some point. The Braves, I mean, even though they're obviously going to be a contender in the East, probably the favorite for most people, they have a lot of young prospects that are coming up. They're looking for a place to play Drew Waters. They're looking for a place to play Kristen Pache. So there's a lot of teams out there with a lot of depth in the outfield that I think, at some point could become available. But I do think that I think the White Sox are still fine. I think they're still a favorite in that division. I think that they just have to kind of just see where it goes, once the season starts, and just see how Vaughn does, and then go from there.
You know who I would love to see there, and I don't know if he's available, but he might be, depending on how the Reds do, and that's Castellanos. I would love to see the Sox pick up Castellanos, because not only this, let's say that somehow Eloy does come back, and Castellanos he's a great guy to come off the bench too. Great guy. Absolutely. So, and when he was with Chicago, fans loved him, teammates loved him, but I guess
versatile.
Yep, absolutely. We could say that about a lot of players at this juncture.
The problem with the Sox, though, is that the way that their roster is constructed, Eloy is essentially in the outfield even when he returns.
Yeah.
Abreu is not moving off of first base, and Vaughn is going to be a first baseman at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't put Eloy anywhere else. So you're looking at least 1 or 2 seasons, whether or not if Abreu falls off a cliff all of a sudden, I mean, he's got another year or 2 under his contract. I mean, the Sox are an extremely loyal organization. They did it with Paul Konerko, where they gave him they kept bringing him back on 1-year deals. And eventually he just kind of was a bench player that came off for pinch hitting, and he eventually retired. But I see the same thing happening with Abreu. Jerry Reinsdorf loves him. That's the reason he got the contract he did, is because Reinsdorf stepped in and pretty much took over negotiations. Because when Jerry loves a guy, he ain't going to let him go away. So they're just in a weird position. They just have to, when he comes back, eventually he needs to play like Carlos Lee did. Let the balls drop. You're more important in the lineup. Don't try to be the hero on the field. Just bash the ball. That's really your one and only job. You got 8 other positions that can handle the fielding.
Well, see, Judge was just talking about that, Aaron, of the Yankees. He's talking about, hey, some plays I'm not going to make the attempt to secure the ball, because it's not about that singular play. It's about the longevity of the season and the massiveness that his body is on that field. So I would agree. You got to play ball, but
you could bring Bryce Harper into that too. He was the same way. Everybody remembers the first couple years in Washington. He was slamming in everything, and he's still comparing the two, he's still a heads and shoulders a better fielder than Eloy is, but he doesn't make those crazy plays anymore. He's much more conscious of where he is on the field and what he's doing, because he knows his value is in his bat.
Yep, I would agree. So, like I said, they're still in a good position. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, that's going to be one of the huge bullet points when the season starts, to see how the Sox can kind of rally around that and see what they do early on. So, but yeah, definitely one of the big stories coming out today, and one that'll have an impact over the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks, at least early on. So anyways, we also talked about the big news today. Sony dropped I guess it's kind of a 2-tier stream today. They did one on Twitch, which was from Sony San Diego. And then, Christian, you also talked about, they also had one that focused a little bit more on this stadium creator, which was available on IGN. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about that, and for those who didn't see it?
Of course. They're Ramon and Ryan McCaffrey, I believe his name is, for IGN, put a video out. They usually do one every March, talking about the new stuff. And Ryan was actually really excited about the show coming to Xbox. So they briefly talked about onboarding, which is a hot term from the last week and a half. And then they also talked about just new gameplay animations, the hundreds of new batting stances we're used to every single year now, and then just presentation animations. And then they finally started talking about the Create a Stadium, or Stadium Creator is what it's probably going to be called. And they did like a deeper dive into like the individual pieces you can move and what you can do, and dragging like the walls of the stadium and all the presets that they had, and just threw a bunch of numbers at you. And it was a pretty like dense, like 15 minutes of a stream where they just talked about this Stadium Creator that I'm surprised that you guys missed, honestly. But yeah, like they talked about like 1,000 different pieces that you can put anywhere in the stadium and certain backgrounds. And then there was something I wrote down here. They had like you have to have a batter's eye before you can save it too. So if you guys were worried about the online crowd putting together a stadium that's going to be outrageous, you have to have it within one of the preset like dimensions. And then you also have to have a batter's eye to even save the stadium.
Which is great.
Not as much of an issue offline because the CPU will hit the ball even without a batter's eye, I'm sure. But it reduces the cheese for the online. And I know that's not exactly the same people who are listening here, but again, it's still very important to note from that video. And then of course they talked about casual, competitive, and then simulation mode within the show 21. And Ramon basically said that the game will play the same in 21 on simulation as it has on MLB 20, the way that it's been playing actively now. And that was pretty much it that I got from that video. Again, 15 minutes on IGN. It's definitely worth a watch.
Absolutely.
Did you see any reference at all during the Stadium Creator video, one to where maybe they showed any type of dome type structure or applying your own created logos to the stadium? Did they mention that at all?
I didn't see the created logos, no, and they didn't show dome. So for the entire video, or at least that portion of it, they only showed one stadium where the guy was putting in certain presets or messing with a couple of the things that you can insert and then dragging the foul poles. So they didn't exactly like show a bunch of preset stadiums that they created. They just were messing with this one.
Okay.
One of the cool things that I saw before we came on, I don't know if you guys saw it, but the PlayStation blog came out with the blog on the today's stream, and it focused on a lot of the baseball player features that they talked about today, and then they also talked about the Stadium Creator. And the designer of the Stadium Creator has 30 pre-built, custom-made stadiums in the game. And so I thought that number was kind of cool because 30 teams, 30 stadiums. So but yeah, those stadiums could either be edited or or you could play them as is, I guess. That's the way I took it. But yeah, maybe the 30 pre-built stadiums can be substituted for the 30 MLB stadiums right off the bat, which would be amazing for fictional franchises.
Or even the minor league stadiums. If I could make all the minor league stadiums and play in those, it's going to help with the immersion of playing with your affiliates.
Now, am I understanding this correctly, gentlemen? When I say, did someone say earlier that these stadiums that you create cannot be used in exhibition, or did I misunderstand that? Is this only for...
It just says in the blog and in the videos that I've seen, it said franchise and Diamond Dynasty is what I've seen.
See, I wish they'd clarify that, because that doesn't make any sense that you could make it, you could use them. And I'm sure that's probably the case that you can use it in exhibition, but we do need clarification on that.
It may be the same case as you could only rebrand a team into a franchise. And then the stadium's going to be tied to like your home stadium in a franchise. That would be the most logical decision to me. And then I believe they also announced that you could share the stadiums, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's going to be fantastic for the community. You know that
Absolutely.
We all like to create and share what we've created. So it's going to be huge.
Huge, definitely.
Absolutely. That's awesome stuff. So there was that video that was on IGN. Obviously, they went into depth about what we just talked about. San Diego Studios had their own live stream today with Ramon and a bevy of gentlemen, a bevy of developers on there, talking about basically road to the show narrative, ball player, and a couple other things. Chris and I watched that together. Scott jumped in a little bit. Bacon, Chris, did you happen to see that at all, Christian?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
with my screen.
Anyone, jump in. Tell me what was the one thing that was most exciting that jumped out the most to you.
Can I say Robert Flores? Honestly, the podcast idea is interesting. I like that it's still available on PlayStation 3 or the current gen. I mean, or PlayStation 4, not 3. So this is the current gen though. And it's interesting that they had enough space to create both, and then the videos are only in the next gen.
Right.
So I'm also wondering if you can turn off the videos in next gen and just listen to it like a podcast. But that whole concept was really interesting to me.
Right. With something like that, of course, the worry is that it's always going to become repetitive and just become mundane throughout the course of a franchise or a season or whatever mode you're playing in. But I think they kind of addressed that a little bit. I think I heard correctly, 180 different dynamic approaches with that. So,
yeah,
we still have to see how that plays out. That sounds like enough to keep it fresh throughout our time within that mode.
They also said too that it depends on how your player is. Like if you're a pitcher, you will see certain ones. If you're a hitter, you'll see certain ones. So at least it gives you. I've never really dove too far into Road to the Show, so I usually don't ever really make it past the first season. So I mean, I don't know if some of the guys who are more kind of into that mode might it might get repetitive if it's like year 5 or 6 or however long you're going to go into it. How much does that change exactly? But it looks like for the initial what they're offering, it definitely is interesting.
Right. Well, in our chat, we see, for those who are just listening to podcasts, we're on Twitch. But in our chat, someone brought up, and I believe it was you, Christian, the Tony Bruno show that was on Madden, which is one of my, I'll be honest, I don't really get into the podcast and this kind of stuff. It's great, and I love that it's an option. But that Tony Bruno show that they used to have, was it Madden 07 and 08 that he was involved? Maybe even 09?
Was it 05? Was it 05?
It could have even been back then. But I loved that. That, and the magazine also, someone talked about that too. Yeah.
The Tony Bruno show was dense.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you got deep into a franchise, like you wouldn't hear like the same one twice. Like it was very dense.
Yep.
So that's the goal, obviously, here, and they have this, even better equipment to do it. So you'd assume that it's going to be well above the Tony Bruno show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, they only showed like 5 of the voices, and there's how many did they say there were? Like 12 or something, or 16?
Yeah, 12 or 13.
13.
Yeah.
So it's probably gonna be a lot of MLB Network guys. Is probably what I would assume. But that's great. There's a lot of really good shows on that network. So
just no Christopher Russo, please.
I was just gonna say that, but
oh, that's okay.
Come on, what's wrong with the Mad Dog? Come on.
A lot.
We'll
be here all night, Scott.
Oh, stop it.
If you don't like the Yankees, then
the Mad Dog's not a Yankee fan. He's a Giant fan.
Oh, well, he's always talking about New York, and
he's a Giants fan, but I don't think he's followed the Giants in about 10 years, maybe. I think he still thinks Bonds plays for them, but
so we've talked about that. What about the was there anything else within the video from Sony San Diego today that stuck out to you guys? Anything at all? It wasn't. There wasn't a lot of depth to it, but there were some interesting tidbits in there.
The ball player thing is definitely interesting. It doesn't cater to my play style for the show, but I can totally see how people that play Diamond Dynasty and love those modes are going to eat that up. It's very RPG esque. In my opinion. So it's definitely interesting. I think they probably are onto something, but I mostly just care about franchise. So
but be honest, Chris, you had some concerns before we went live.
I do actually. Yeah. The thing that concerns me is, I don't play Diamond Dynasty. I will maybe play like a handful of games, maybe 15, 20 games a year online. And the thing that really concerns me with that is I don't like seeing fake players on Diamond Dynasty. And with the way that they've kind of set it up, you're going to see a fake guy on every single team now, I feel like. So that's, for me, that just takes immersion out. I like seeing the legends go up against legends.
Right.
I don't want to see some crazy player model with, a beard down to his chest, and he's 400 pounds and he's 4 feet tall, batting or something that just doesn't, that kind of breaks it for me. So
no, yeah, for me that's a. Oh, go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
I was actually very impressed with what they added today to that Road to the Show. I mean, I'm not a player of that mode per se. I mean, I've actually dabbled in it, here and there, but I mean, they look like they've really gone all in. Obviously with that mode, we know it's the number one mode. We talked about that before, Bob. Right. It's the number one mode that people play. So obviously that's where they're going to put the majority of the work, I guess. Right. And but it looks like there's some really cool features with the MLB network and some really cool integration with a lot of the different personalities. So I think that's great. I think it'll be really cool if we see some of that stuff, whether it be in franchise mode or in March to October, or a combination of both. I do like the live video in the next gen console. I think that's kind of cool that's kind of making its way back, because it's been a part of games. We actually just talked about this when we had Nick Olczyk on. We talked about this with the NHL series. They had the opening intros with his dad Eddie, and there was some some different intros with some live announcers. They would do a little intro before the game and kind of set up the game that you're about to play. So it's cool to see the live video coming back. I guess we just have to wait and see another week where it goes, if at all, with franchise in March to October. But you got to be impressed with what we've seen so far. I know there's still a ton of questions and people are concerned, but I think we've seen some really cool things and some really great stuff so far. So I'm excited to see what we're going to find out in the next week or so.
I would agree with that. And I think if we really look at the game as a collective whole and not broken up, or if we stop compartmentalizing everything, the transfer from the PS3 to the PS4, while smooth, the very first iteration of that title was somewhat basic. Yep. And when we look at what we're seeing from the PS4 to the PS5 and obviously now the Xbox Series X, I think the additions, whether you love certain things or not, the additions are substantial. And this is only year one. Christian, would you agree with that? Do you think they're ahead of schedule?
Oh, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah. I expected it to be a carbon copy, just be a little bit smoother than 20. But they're doing a lot more overall than I was anticipating. Of course, next week's video is the one we're all really worried about. But still, I mean, it's nice to see them improving the game as a whole.
The big thing is the stadium creator. I mean, we got to go back to that because, I mean, me and Bob, we're going to get to this in a little bit, but we both have been dabbling with Out of the Park 22, the beta that's come out this week, and Bob sent me this massive file. I'll stop there.
Okay.
This massive file of customized 3D model stadiums for Out of the Park, and oh my god, it just adds so much to the game, and being able to add those custom made stadiums to the historical franchise or a fictional franchise, and it just adds so much, even to a game like Out of the Park. So what it's going to add to a game like The Show, I think it's, I mean, honestly, if they kept the same game and they added that custom stadium creator, I mean, I would probably just be happy with that at this point. But obviously, we've got a lot more than that. But that stadium creator is just huge. I think it's just game changing. It really is. It just is going to add so much. And in fact, that they're shareable. It looks like they're not as, we were afraid in the beginning that it was going to be very basic, I think. But I think we've kind of seen that it's really not going to be as basic as we thought, that there's actually a lot more to it than we originally, were thinking. So just because of the fact that it is more in depth and that we can share them, I mean, just think of the creators in our community, just think of the guys on this stream right now. There's going to be some amazing things out there that, everybody's going to be sharing, so, I mean, Bob's already talking about redoing the whole Wrigley Field thing. So we'll have to see how that all works out.
Well, we've talked about it. I mean, we joke about it, but we've talked about it 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. Whether it's your guys' rosters that, the historic rosters that you guys put out, or Christian, you're fictional. If you're playing in a certain era, it's just not fun playing in the current stadiums. It breaks, and I know Nick Olchek, we used the word immersion 3,000 times last week, but it's true, and it's the only word that applies. I don't want to play with the 69 Cubs in Wrigley Field with billboards and video boards on either side and the Budweiser deck. It does nothing for me, nothing. But you give me a Wrigley Field that has just the main scoreboard in center field above the second deck, and that's it, and I can see all the buildings around. Well, now we're talking, and now that gets me excited about wanting to play it, not only for a little bit, but it adds longevity to it. It makes me want to keep coming back because it takes me to that era, and that's what I want.
Absolutely.
That should be the next step, honestly, too. They should make it so we have Stadium Creator this year, and then maybe not next year, but 2 years down the road, give me Stadium Editor. So I can edit every stadium's in the game. Like, let me take away, add in anything that I want to do. Like Miller Park, or not Miller Park anymore, but the Brewers' home stadium, American Family Field, they consistently miss small scoreboard that's in left center field. It's been out for 4 years. Now I could add that in myself. Like what you're saying, you could take any renovation away from Wrigley Field and give me the original version of Wrigley.
Yep, absolutely.
It seems like the next step.
Yep, I would agree. So, and we talked about it's a process, and I don't expect Stadium to create. In fact, I think it's already surpassed my expectations for year one. I mean, so we'll see. And what do we have? Two streams left from San Diego? 2 or 3?
No, there's 3, I think.
3?
Okay. Well, we got franchise, we got next gen, and then believe there's one more after that.
I think it's the depth tournament last.
Okay. All right. So we brought it up earlier in the show, or at least at the beginning, at the top of the show. This week, Out of the Park Baseball 22 dropped its beta. I think it officially goes live tomorrow, but if you pre-ordered it, you now have access to the title. Scott, I know you've played it. Chris, you're on the verge of playing it. Christian, is that something you dabble in, sir?
Not yet.
Not yet?
I haven't had the time. Exactly.
Okay. Well, I'm in the middle for Operation Sports. I'm in the middle of doing a review for it. And I'm not going to go into depth because I don't want to ruin anything. I'll just say that so far my time with the title it's been a lot of little tweaks and upgrades that make it a lot more accessible for people who have never jumped into it or maybe only have a year or two. Because let's be honest, it's a tough title to navigate and to understand all that's involved. And so far it seems like they've tweaked it a little bit, made things a little more streamlined, a little bit easier and more accessible. But right now, just for the review, I am redoing the 1984 season, and that allows me not only to have the rosters that are statistically driven. I've now replaced every single stadium with accurate stadiums, and with the new view this year, that's a huge deal. And not only are the stadiums accurate, a lot of what these gentlemen have created have the same ads in it, same billboards. So it's really cool. There's a deep level of authenticity that when I'm playing. What about you, Scott? I know you've had some time with it.
Yeah, I mean they did a tremendous job with Out of the Park. Like you said, it's when you first fire it up, it's again we're playing the beta. The official release is tomorrow, I believe. So the we'll download the the original tomorrow when it comes out and see if there's any other changes from this beta that was available to the pre-release people. Mm-hmm. But it's fantastic. I mean it's I think if you guys get a chance, M.Frisk made a great video last night. We are actually going to play it on this stream, but it's like 16 minutes long, and we would probably all fall asleep in 16 minutes because we're all like, if we watch TV for more than 10 minutes, we all fall asleep. So, but it's a fantastic video, and he highlights like everything about the additions to the game.
Right.
And he called it the ultimate baseball sandbox, which is the perfect words for the game, because that's what it is. I mean, you could customize so many things and do so many different things with it. And again, it's very similar to last year overall when you first fired up. There's a lot of different coaching things with it and nuances with personality and stuff like that. The 3D model thing is really cool, where you can go in and you could edit and create 3D stadiums, which they had that last year. But looks like it's tweaked a little bit this year. But the custom stadiums, the ability to add the face gen, the face packs, you can pretty much mod it up as much as you want to mod it up. There's mods for everything. So it's really cool. I know Bob said he's playing like an 84 season. I started a 93 season with the Expos, and, you go back and the farm systems are legit farm systems with the legit logos, the legit, everything's the way it was back then. It's so cool because you could play a season from 93. The divisions are all aligned just like they were in 93. You don't have to worry about, the current division type structure. Everything's set up, and then you're pulling up your top prospects from 93. And it's great because you got like, Chipper Jones and Manny Ramirez, and, they're all like the top prospects, during that year. So we're just talking obviously, some out of the park and some of the features that we like in the new one. And, like I said, the depth is second to none. If you're a baseball fan and you have a PC or a laptop that's capable of playing it, give it a shot. It's amazing. Next week, we're actually going to have on Thursday night with us, we're going to have Rich Grisham from Out of the Park. He's going to come on with us, and he's going to talk about the game and just hang out with us for an hour and just talk about sports gaming, baseball gaming. And, we'll dig deep into Out of the Park and what their plan is for the year and all kinds of stuff. And then later on down the road, we'll have a couple other guys from the Out of the Park team on, but they're going to come on and talk about Perfect Team. So we have a lot of cool stuff that we're going to be doing with those guys from Out of the Park. But it's just the game, the level of detail and the passion that the guys that make it, and also the community that creates the mods. It's really second to none. If you go into those forums, Bob, I'm sure that, you've checked them out before, where they have, the mod, you could tell, like you said, down to the level of detail with the ads and the stadiums and all kinds of stuff like that.
Well, what's awesome is even if you're not a Major League Baseball fan per se, which I don't know why you wouldn't be, but no. They also have different leagues, international leagues that are available there, and it's not just fictitious. They have the real rosters. Many of the stadiums are created, and I was just looking today. A guy had worked up an NCAA college mod, and they were trying to work together how to make it mimic what the NCAA does for college baseball, which I love college baseball, to sit there and be able to play in real stadiums with real rosters. So it's very versatile. It's an incredibly deep and versatile title. And it really, if you're a baseball fan of any sense, in any way, it kind of placates to you, whether generally or very specific. And I love that about that title.
Yeah, I think when you first fire up the game, on the opening screen, it has, basically load game, start game, historical franchise. And if you go into historical franchise, you can basically pick any year, era, and, you just pick the year you want to play, and, you generate, you go from there. It also has a fictional franchise right from the go.
Yeah.
You could actually just pick a fictional franchise where it'll generate, you'll pick how many teams you want in there. You can generate, what kind of leagues you want throughout the world. I actually dabbled a little bit with the KBO, which they're licensed KBO this year. The KBO league is in there, has all the licensed, the teams, the names, the uniforms, all the players, the rosters are updated. So it's fantastic. It really is. It's just a really, really deep baseball game. A lot of fun. Can take a lot of your time. That's a warning, right, Bob?
Yeah.
The time seems to fly when you fire that up. So, be on the lookout for, wasting a lot of your time, because you're going to be spending it in front of the computer playing it, because you get hooked on it and you can't get away from it. But it's that good. But yeah, it's fantastic. They did a great job. I'm really looking forward to talking to Rich next week about it, and also looking forward to the full game tomorrow, and to see if there's many changes from what we've been playing the last few days. But overall, I mean, everybody I've talked to, and Bob and I actually, we've shared some feelings on it, but I think it's a real solid effort this year, and definitely an upgrade over last year.
Yeah, I would agree. And one last thought about the title is it's such an awesome title to be able to, especially during March Madness, to have the games playing on one TV, have that game playing, because you play at your own pace. You can dictate with that game. You can go pitch by pitch, out by out, or you can just sim it straight up. You don't even have to watch the game play out. It literally lets you play how you want to play it. And that may differ one week I may want to sit there and watch every darn pitch. The next day I may only want to just sim through game or even a month at a time. So, but it does. It allows that freedom and flexibility for however you want to play it. So but I'm looking forward to having Rich on there. Not only is he part of the OOT family, his depth of knowledge of baseball games, the sport itself, is almost unmatched. So it should be a lot of fun next Thursday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. But before we get out of here tonight, we want to throw it back to Christian. Christian, tell us about what's going on in your world for the next week.
So I've actually been streaming on Twitch. I became an affiliate about 2 months ago, and we're up to about 150 followers now. I exclusively stream my franchise, and then I recently started a Road to the Show, a player named Shorty Hightower. And actually tonight, after I'm done here, we will be creating a player for my roster on stream. So that's going to be really exciting. You're going to get an idea of what I'm thinking about when I'm making somebody and the entire tedious process of creating just one player.
Awesome. So you're going to take your viewers through the process of how you create one of your fictional players, right?
Right.
That's an awesome. Make sure you guys tune in and watch that. That should be a lot of fun. So.
No, but one other thing I wanted to talk about before we leave tonight is, we talked a little bit, obviously real baseball, real MLB a little bit earlier, and some of the stuff that we've been putting out with the Scout Scoops brand, we've put out some of our Pick Your Franchise articles. This week, I believe we had the Blue Jays today, Chris. That was the article that
Blue Jays went out today.
We had
they're live, so you guys can check that out.
Yep, and we also had I know we had the Tigers. So we've been putting out a lot of these articles, almost on a daily or otherwise every other day basis. And we've got a countdown coming shortly as we get closer to release day, where we're going to have a different article of content coming out every day, gearing up towards the release of MLB The Show. But I just want to talk quick about a couple of the teams that we highlighted with those articles this week. If we could start maybe with the Tigers, Chris and Bob and Christian, all of us. The Tigers are a team, obviously. They're not a contender. We know that. They're in the rebuilding mode. And Chris, you probably know the Tigers well from being a White Sox fan. That's a division rival. But I just want to talk a little bit about a couple players on that team that I think you're kind of seeing stock rise and stock fall. Casey Mize, for one, obviously he's had a lot of issues this spring. He had a rough end to last year. The control seems to be having some control issues. And then the other guy that I wanted to talk about is a guy that, we talked a little bit about offline the other day with James, who's one of our, guys who works with us with the rosters, is Akil Badu, who came a Rule 5 pick, who came over from the Twins. And he's had a tremendous spring. Looks to be a lock to make the team. Real strong chance to play a good amount of outfield for the Tigers. So what do you guys think so far? Have you seen much of the Tigers, or what is your opinion so far of what you've seen?
Well, I know for myself with the MLB package, I've watched them play a little bit. And I think we've already talked about it. They're going to be a team that this year are going to show little flashes. Most of their excitement is going to come a year or two away from now. All right, farm system is good, and we've talked about right now. The White Sox are going to be there. The Twins are going to be there. The Tigers aren't going to be there, but that's okay. You can't always be there, but they have a light at the end of the tunnel, which I think is important to point out. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. They're not the Pirates franchise. All right. And maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel for the Pirates. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like just a straight pit to hell for Pirate fans.
Nutsy just fell out of his chair.
Yeah, I know he has.
All the Nutsy Poos, or what's his followers? The Poo Crew?
The Poo
All the Nutsy
Crew.
Poos just fell out of their chairs across the internet.
I think the light at the end of the
all the Nutsy TikTokers just turned off the stream.
Oh, there's going to be hate mail coming at me tonight. But I mean, it's true. And I think that's what, right, to me, if you ask me to look at those two franchises, the Tigers are trending upwards. They've got some young talent, young arms coming up. That should be a lot of fun to watch. I think they're going to trade away a couple pieces that are still left this year. You may see 60, 65 wins out of them this year, and I think that's going to be the ceiling. But I think you're going to see glimpses of what they're capable of, and they're going to start building on that starting with next year and the year after, and maybe we can start filling Comerica back up.
Well, Tarek Skubal looks like he's the real deal. He's going to obviously have a spot in the rotation. Julio Teheran's had a really nice spring. He's going to be in the rotation.
Right.
And, Julio's always been, he's always been one of those pitchers that I've kind of followed and kind of liked. And I got to see him a lot when he was with the Braves. So, it's cool to see him, have some success there. Hopefully he can build on it and have a nice year. And he's a great trade piece for somebody like the Tigers. If they could get through, get to the trade deadline and he's having a great first half, then we can, we could probably see the Tigers flip him somewhere. But yeah, I agree. I think the Tigers definitely have, they have a bright future. Riley Green looks great. He's had some nice at bats this spring. I've seen a bunch of that. But and then the other team, and again, I'm trying to highlight some of the teams that we pushed out with the pick your franchise. I want to kind of do this as we get into each of these shows, kind of highlight some of the teams that we put out that current week with those pick your franchise articles. Because I think that, the game's coming out in 3 weeks now, I believe, the early release.
Mm-hmm.
And even with like Out of the Park and RBI, the baseball games that are out, I was sitting back and I was firing up Out of the Park 22 the last couple nights. And I've been messing with it, doing some modding and downloads of, I don't know if I mentioned that Bob sent me a huge file of stadiums that was like 20 gigs or something crazy. But
that's a lot of gigs for those stadiums. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. But one of the things I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, what team am I going to be? And I start thinking, I'm like, maybe try this team in a historical franchise, or maybe I'll try this team in a KBO franchise. But if I want to play, MLB current team, in a franchise, who do I want to be? So I started thinking about those pick your franchise articles, so thinking, hey, maybe I'm going to look over some of those articles, maybe, just pick a team. So I'm just trying to highlight some of those that, some of the creators have done. I know Stealth, Mike Bodfield did one that we put out today on the Blue Jays, Toronto Blue Jays.
Right.
And the Blue Jays are the team that's, I think everybody's, I guess you would say sexy pick to kind of have a good year. Some people are predicting that they could win the division. They could finish second. I do like the Blue Jays. I think that they will contend for a wild card. I do think their pitching is still way below standard for what they're going to need to contend to if they want to go farther. I do think that I still like the Rays and the Yankees. I think the Yankees obviously are the team to beat, but the Yankees have a lot of opportunity. We've talked about this before with their starting rotation. It all depends on Kluber and Tyone and how healthy they are and what the Yankees get out of them. And the Rays are just a very well-run organization. They're going to be there. So I think those are the top two teams in the division, but it wouldn't shock me to see the Blue Jays, finish second if they had a really nice year, but I still think their pitching is where their opportunity is. What do you think? What do you guys think?
The wild card with the Blue Jays is their farm system, though. I mean, they have such a strong farm system that they easily could replace and strengthen that pitching with some trades. And I think you're going to see that. I think that's probably, we're going to see just how good this lineup is. I think it's a lineup that, you've got minimum 20 home runs coming 1 through 9. I mean, every single one of those guys can hit it out of the park. You got a pretty good bench. I mean, they did a good job with that young talent, but that farm system is something to be desired. I think they're definitely, if they make use of that, where they can flip some guys, it won't hurt them for the long term, and it'll just make their team better.
Do you feel like they need that number one? I mean, do you think Ryu's is he that ace, or do you think they still need that number one? Do you think they need that number one pitcher?
I think they still need that number one, but they might have the number one with Pearson on there.
Pearson, yeah, he's
you don't
think
know.
He's injured though. Yeah, he
is injured.
He seems to be injury prone a little bit. I mean, I think he had a little bit of injuries last year. I do love his stuff. He's got great stuff, and I do think he has number one potential. But I do think that they have a lot of talent, like you said, in the farm system and at the MLB level. And I think at some point, if if they are in contention for, for the division or for a wild card spot. I mean, is it going to be the year where they take some of that talent and they say, okay, let's go get an ace. Let's make that trade. Who is the ace out there that they could get?
Yeah.
Well,
maybe they don't necessarily need the ace. I mean, Ryu very well could pitch just as well as he has so far. I mean, like the matchup that I see that makes a ton of sense is Kyle Hendricks of the Cubs going there.
Just getting ready to say that. Yep.
Well, I see him, or I see Luis Castillo. I could see Castillo from the Reds too. I mean, I know some people think the Reds are going to contend in that division, and they very well may. But I do think that division is going to be. I think it's going to be tight. The Central we've talked about before. I do think the Brewers and the Cardinals are going to be much tighter than people think. I think not just because Bacon's on, and we'll give a shout out to the Brewers, but I do think the Brewers are going to be much tougher than they people originally thought. And I do think the Cubs are still going to be there. I'm not saying they're going to contend to win a division, but I do think that they could very well, if things got crazy and Chris Bryant turns into Chris Bryant, and who knows? I mean, you never know. It's not going to happen, Bob, but we'll just say it.
It's not going to happen.
And then obviously the Pirates, Bob already said what's going to happen with the Pirates, so I won't go into any more with the Pirates. But, the Reds are a team.
I will put on the record, I actually do like the Pirates prospects.
Well, I do too. I agree with that. I said that a few years. Yeah, I said that a couple weeks ago. I actually think the Pirates farm system is much better than people are.
Okay, fine. Let's talk about the farm system. That's great. But tell me, when was the last time that damn organization did anything to give the fans hope? So, yeah, let's look at the farm system. That's fine. But it's not just about the farm system. No. It's about the damn ownership and that organization as a whole.
Yeah.
That's my issue with the Pirates.
Yeah, I mean, and it's such a shame because it is a great fan base there in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely,
the stadium is
one of the best stadiums. Absolutely,
yeah, it's amazing. And when the Pirates are winning, it's good for baseball. And it's just a shame that it's come to what it's come there in the last few years. But again, I mean, I do think there is a small light there if the ownership doesn't screw it up. But again, it's one of those things where we keep seeing the ownership make bad decisions, and you got to just look at some of these trades they've made over the last few years and just shake your head and be like, what were you thinking? But it's going to be interesting. But back to the Blue Jays, I still think they need that pitcher, whether it's a 1 or a 2, or it's they need that guy in that rotation who 150 175 inning guy, 12 to 15 wins. One of the guys that's still out there that nobody signed that I'm kind of surprised, and it's not like he's a world beater or he's not going to come out and win 20 games for anybody, is but Porcello. I mean, Porcello is a guy who 12 to 15 wins every year, 160, 180 innings, consistent, doesn't get hurt much, usually and you would think, especially with the way baseball is going to be this year, coming off a 60-game season, going back to 162, where all these pitchers are going to be on strict pitch counts, and you're going to see teams using 6 starters and 7 starters and openers and all kinds of crazy stuff you're probably going to see this year. I'm really shocked that a team hasn't tried to bring in Porcello and just use him for some of the innings that he can eat up at the back end of a rotation somewhere. So I mean, the only thing I'm thinking with that is it's possibly one of those things where he's probably been offered a contract, and it's probably something that he's, not used to the size of the contract that he's been offered. And he's just kind of waiting around, hoping that somebody gets injured somewhere and somebody comes knocking, maybe a contender. But yeah, I'm shocked that he's still out there, because I do think that, a guy like him could eat up a lot of innings. And I think that there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to need a lot of innings eaten up this year, especially with coming off of what we went through last year with COVID in baseball.
Right. And I'll go back to this, and not just because I'm a fan. I think the Cubs and how they get out of the gate are the enigma here. Because let's be honest, if the Cubs are slow out of the gate, they're selling. Okay? Yep. And what does that mean? What does that? A lot of teams sell, but we're selling pieces where Wilson Contreras, Chris Bryant,
pieces.
Anthony Rizzo, possibly Jock Peterson, Hendricks. We just talked. Maybe Zach Davies. Those are legitimate pieces and strong cogs that you could slide in anywhere else to contending teams, and it elevates them quite well. I mean, so it'll be. I think that is even if you're not a Cubs fan and you're a fan of another team, even in the other conference, look at the Cubs, because if they get out of the gate slow, those pieces are being moved, and they're going to help someone.
Oh yeah, they are. I mean, I just saw the 1-2 punch for the Padres was announced today for the opening series of the season, and it's Yu Darvish and Blake Snell. I mean,
that's a hell of a 1-2 punch.
Well, it is, and I mean, if you think about it, I mean, they were talking. I was listening to something today when they were talking about top 10 teams in overall Major League Baseball, not the top 10 National League or American League, but just the top 10 overall teams. And, it's almost like you get to 5 or 6 before you actually bring up an American League team. Like, the National League is so strong, those top teams. Dodgers, obviously, the top overall team in baseball. Padres are right there. I mean, the Padres are loaded. I mean, they got depth all over the place. And, it's going to be interesting to see. We've talked about this before, how, what happens in the next couple of years with some of the contracts coming up with the Dodgers and how the whole Padres thing plays out with all the $300 million contracts that they've given out. But I mean, the Padres should be a lot of fun this year. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch. And, it's kind of like, if they succeed with what they've done, they've kind of given teams like maybe like the White Sox, or a team like that has a loaded farm system that's very close. They might give them the blueprint to say, okay, here's what you got to do. You got the loaded farm system. You trade a few pieces. You can't be afraid to move some guys. You spend some big money on some big contracts, but then boom, you're an instant contender. If it blows up and they don't have the year that everybody expects them to have, then all of a sudden you're going to see a lot of people in San Diego get fired, and you're going to see, and you're going to see teams totally shy away from the $300 million contracts like the Padres did. So
agree. They become the Titanics of Major League Baseball. Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see it, but I do think that they just have so much talent that I do think, I think they're loaded. They've got fun players, just obviously Tatis, we've talked about him before, and they've got loaded fun players all over over the field and in the rotation. And, I do think at some point they'll go out and they'll probably get a big time closer from one of these teams that ends up selling off a piece of the bullpen at some point. So they're going to be interesting to watch. But again, I mean, if you guys are looking for teams to pick, for your franchises, whether it be an Out of the Park, MLB The Show, RBI, whatever you're doing, check out some of those articles that these guys have been putting up, because there's some great stuff in there. I mean, some really good detailed research content. Chris and Kenny Lindbergh and Bob have all done a fantastic job with the website. The website looks amazing. There's some just fantastic content coming out. I mean, I know Frisk has put up a lot of content. We've got a bunch of guys just constantly, pushing out articles and all different kinds of stuff. So again, a shout out to all these guys with all the work they've done with the whole franchise, pick your franchise content and articles, and just the overall work that these guys are doing. Because I think it gives guys who are playing these games something to kind of reference. And I remember going back, probably 5 or 6 years, and every year is, the seasons would change, and it would, winter would get deeper, and it'd be January, and all of a sudden February's rolling around, and you're starting to think, okay, spring's starting to come around, baseball's coming, MLB The Show's coming. I'm going to play franchise this year. Who am I going to be in franchise? And I'd go around looking for the baseball magazines, or you start looking online at some articles, or, and you're trying to look at the different teams, and you didn't really have a place that you could just kind of go and just have all the different teams, with all the different articles of or different points of contention within that team, from the franchise aspect of rotations and farm system depth and all that. So now it's kind of cool that they're all going to be in one place. And I think you guys are really enjoying that out there. It seems like everybody's been really receptive to the content that they've been putting out. So bravo to you guys. You guys have done great with that. So if you guys haven't checked them out, the people watching and listening to this, please check them out, because there's some great content.
And I think it's also important to point out that the website, while still full of good content right now, it's a fluid situation, and it's in its genesis. If we're all being honest with our viewers and our listeners and everything, I think Chris and I would tell you, and even Scott would tell you, that we launched the website maybe a little bit earlier than we wanted to. But there, But the fact of the matter is that there is some good content, and more is on its way, and it's going to be a completely, like I said, just a fluid situation. As the year goes on, we're going to have different content out there, different ideas, different perspectives. So yeah, stick with us, but yeah, make sure you head over there and take a look.
And as you guys have seen, this whole podcast is kind of more from a podcast on Spotify, then it went to Apple, then it became we're going on to YouTube, now we're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, it's kind of morphing as we go, and we do have a plan for this. It might seem like it, but we do.
Full-blown movie next week.
Yeah. And starting next week, you're going to see April 1st, you see the opening day of the season. You're going to see the MLB The Show franchise reveal, which I think a lot of franchise players are super excited about. That's going to be one of the videos that I'm super excited to see. And at that point, you're a little over 2 weeks away from the game being released. You already got out of the park out, and you're going to start to see a lot more content from us on a daily basis. You'll start to see some more streams, and we've got some awesome content coming up in April. We've got some big things planned, and we'll be talking about those in the next couple of weeks. But we've got some amazing content around different games out there, the different MLB games, and also just around the Down on the Dugout podcast, and around some other stuff that we'll be announcing, shortly. So again, thanks for everybody supporting us and all the stuff that we're doing around the podcast, the show, the stream, the website, everything. We appreciate it. And you guys just keep letting us know what kind of content you want from us. Do you want more franchise content? Do you want us to talk about BD? Do you want us to talk about RBI? Do you want to talk? Do you want us to talk? Do you want us to not talk about the Cubs and the White Sox? Or I mean, hang on.
Do you want to see me and Bob have a boxing match? And no.
Do you want to see Bob in his hot tub?
Because I've got that picture.
You might as well put it up.
It's really just me in the shower. That's fine.
Yeah, no, we don't want to see that.
No, okay.
But yeah. So we've got a ton of great stuff coming out, and again, we got guys like Bacon, obviously huge in the community, fictional rosters. We look forward to what's going to happen this year with his roster set. He's got some great streams going on. It's really cool to see people who haven't streamed before and haven't created content, like creating content, because it seems like there's been just an influx of new streamers and content creators over the last 6 months or 9 months, especially with I think everybody kind of being at home and locked in and not really having a whole lot to do. So it's really cool, and we're gonna have a lot more different people coming on the show over the next couple of weeks. You're gonna see a lot of new faces that you haven't seen, some guys who you've seen before. And then as we get closer to the whole MLB The Show release night, we'll do something around the whole Scouts Groups brand, where you're going to get to meet all the streamers and all the different people involved with Scouts Groups and what they do. So we'll have a lot of cool stuff coming out. So yeah, thanks for supporting us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. And as Scott said, we want to thank everybody who listens, tunes in, watches. It's appreciated. We just love that you guys are part of the community. Also, if you have any questions or any suggestions, throw them at us on our social media pages, and we do our best to either incorporate them, implement them, or at least listen to them. So it's important to us. And if you do like what you're hearing, don't be afraid to hit the subscribe button, whether it's on YouTube or Twitter or even here on Twitch. So we just appreciate everybody. But with that, we want to say good night. Everybody stay safe, and we'll see you next week.